Hello, I'm Bob Kaiserman from the National Library of Patient Rights and Advocacy. My guest today is Dr. Susan M. Knell, Ph.D., who is a clinical psychologist and adjunct assistant professor in the Department of Psychological Sciences at Case Western Reserve University. Dr. Knell received her undergraduate degree magna cum laude from Mount Holyoke College and her graduate degrees from Ohio State University with an MA in developmental psychology, and from Case Western Reserve University, where she earned her Ph.D. in clinical psychology. She did pre and post-doctoral training at the Neuropsychiatric Institute at UCLA, and at Case Western Reserve, she teaches and supervises the doctoral students. In addition to research, training, and teaching positions, Dr. Knell has maintained a private practice for over 40 years, where she has provided assessment and therapeutic services to children, adolescents, and adults. Dr. Knell is known for her groundbreaking work integrating cognitive behavior therapy with play therapy as a developmentally sensitive approach to psychotherapy with young children, and she has written numerous chapters on CBPT and edited books, lectured throughout the United States and internationally, and served as a manuscript reviewer for the peer-reviewed journals. And she has also co-founded the CBPT Institute in Rome, Italy. Thank you for being with us. Please share some of your insights about the future use of CBPT in the office and how this approach will most likely be advanced in the next 5 years.
Okay, great. Thank you for inviting us. I'm very happy for those of us who were at the conference to be able to continue to share some of the excitement from the conference. As you know, it was the second international conference on CBPT. The first one was in Rome 2 years ago. And what's fascinating to me is that I started thinking about and putting together CBPT in approximately 1985, 1986. And wrote the book Cognitive Behavioral Play Therapy in 1993. And it had some momentum, but it was kind of a very slow going process. And what's exciting to me is that in the last few years, so much is happening in this field, which feels like it has advanced in a lot of ways, like in the last 5 to 10 years or so. So one of the things that is very exciting is that it's gaining more acceptance. Part of the problem has been that cognitive behavioral therapy, which is empirically based, well established, one of the gold standards of psychotherapy, is very solid with adults and even with adolescents and with older children. But there's always been this feeling that it can't be done with younger children. And part of that was a challenge to me because people kept saying, you can't do it. Maybe 8, 9, 10-year-olds will understand, but you can't do it with younger kids. So I think part of what happened was I felt very motivated and challenged by that. So I had been trained to do a lot of play therapy, but it was more psychodynamic, client-centered, child-centered play therapy. And the case that I think really sort of set me off was a little boy who had a newborn sister at home, and he would come into the playroom and he just kept punching and punching the punching bag. And he obviously couldn't go home and punch his little sister, which is what he wanted to do. And I felt like I needed to teach him skills. And I kind of understood that cognitive behavior therapy had a lot of psychoeducation to it. I was starting to learn more about that approach with adults. And I felt like he needs some skills. There's some things I should be able to teach him. But of course, the therapy at that time, especially play therapy, was not psychoeducationally based. So between children like that, where I felt like there was more that I should be able to give them, and also just that challenge of, what do you mean you can't do it with younger kids? That's really where the impetus came from. And I felt like the goal would be to take play therapy and to take CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, and figure out a way to combine them. That's really where it got its start. So as I said, I think the last couple of years have seen more acceptance. Play therapy has always had some challenges in terms of people accepting that it's more than just playing with children, which it absolutely is, but a lot of people don't understand that. And play therapy now has a much stronger empirical base than it did many, many years ago. And the combination of the play and the CBT, because quite honestly, people were right that traditional CBT could not be done with young kids. They don't have the language, they don't have the complex ability to understand the abstract concepts and the language to either understand what's being said to them or to express it themselves. So they were right in that regard, but they weren't right in the regard that we found a way of combining play and CBT so it works for young children.
Okay, so you had spoken earlier about acceptance. Is that acceptance by other practitioners or acceptance by families and parents?
Well, I think both. I mean, I think that sometimes over the years, I've had parents say to me, "Are you doing anything besides just playing with my child?" And, the answer is yes. I went to a lot of school, got a lot of a lot of years of education. I mean, playing is great, it's important, but obviously I feel like it's much more than that. So usually I can explain it to parents pretty well. I think in terms of professionals, those who don't work with young children have a little bit more difficult time because they're accustomed to language-based psychotherapy. But usually people get it when it's explained to them. So I think it's gaining acceptance in both fields. And it's kind of, since it's a combination of the play therapy field and the CBT field, folks are coming at that from different perspectives too. So it's kind of an acceptance in the professional field of that combination.
Curious to know, we've been hearing a lot about CBPT. When does a child outgrow this in terms of the psychologist working?
The
When do you,
CB the CBPT
yeah,
part,
I'm
or
sorry, CBPT.
yeah, I know it's a tongue twister. Well, the funny thing about it is never. I mean, in the sense that we use play both to communicate to the child as well as for the child to communicate to us. But I have had many adolescents walk into my office and I have a basket of puppets and they pick up a puppet and they bring it into the therapy room and we're doing talk therapy, but there's some comfort in that toy.
Okay,
And
interesting.
I've had adults do that too. So
Mhm.
do they outgrow it? Well, they outgrow it in the sense that they have the language to be able to not need it as much as a younger child does. But if an older child or adolescent or even an adult wants to revert to some play as a form of therapy, I'm not going to forbid it.
Where do you see the discipline advancing itself over the next couple of years?
Well,
Is there
I think
research being done or is there new
there
applications?
definitely needs more research. I mean, I know that's what we always say. More research, like didn't we end every undergraduate psychology paper with more research is needed? You knew you could always say that and it would probably be right. So yes, we definitely need more research. We need more research to know which kids this works better for. The feeling right now is that the anxious phobic kids with anxiety and phobias, really young kids, and that's unfortunately a very growing number of children around the world. The feeling right now is that's a population that definitely benefits from this. But there are many other populations that do, but most of the data we have is just clinical. It's
Okay.
people's single case studies or people's perception. So we definitely need more research in terms of who it works for, which pieces of it work, that kind of thing.
But it sounds to me like, from your perspective, this is a successful tool in the uh, toolbox of the psychologist,
I definitely think it is. I probably wouldn't have devoted so much of my life to it if
right?
I didn't think so. But the reason why I think it is because play therapy can be very, very effective with young children. But many of the not more non-directive play therapies are relationship based.
Right.
They're just based on the play therapist and the child having a good relationship, and the child, wants to do better, not because there are goals or because the therapist is suggesting that, but just because they have a good relationship with the therapist. And the thing with CBPT is the child has to have a good relationship with the therapist. That's a given. It's not going to work if they don't. But in addition to that, the therapist has goals for the child and direction and can help the child achieve some of those goals. So I think it really is going to settle in as one of the prominent therapies for those young children under the age of 8.
I guess my last question is, how would a new practitioner learn this? Are there certifications? Are there classes? How are the young men and women coming out of school learning this discipline?
Right. So it's a very good question. There are some certifications that are coming out of the group in Rome, which I'm a part of that group. Videotapes, we have a lot of training online that people can get. Over time, I'm just hoping there's going to be more people who can train locally, one-on-one, individually, in real life, not just, over the internet.
Right.
But we're going to have to grow that community, because the community, I think, is growing, but it's not huge at this point. And we also suffer a little bit from the buzzword. CBPT is a buzzword now. And I always cringe a little bit when people use the word and they're not using it correctly, or they don't really understand what CBPT is. And there's lots of ways to misunderstand.
Okay.
So, for example, people think, oh, I've got goals, that's CBPT. No, it's not, unless you're using the principles of CBT and play therapy. And the guidelines. And one of the things that we really pushed at the conference was a set of foundational guidelines and principles. So we were distributing it and getting that out there, because it worries me. People love the buzzwords. The insurance companies love the buzzwords. They want to say they're doing this because it's going to be more effective, but they need to know what they're doing.
Right, right. I know that when I spoke with Dr. Bruce Beck, he told me that there is concern on her part that she sort of police, if I can use that word, people using this and claiming to be CBT therapists.
Right.
So there's a danger if there's not some kind of oversight.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I know that's been a very clear mission of the Beck Institute in Philadelphia, to really make sure that people are getting appropriately and adequately trained and using the term correctly. And, that's definitely something that I think is super important for CBPT as well.
Well, I really thank you very much for the time that you've given us to explain this. I feel that I'm talking to the master, so I appreciate it very much. I've been speaking with Dr. Susan Knell, and we'll see you next time with another interview. Thank you.